Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. I'm your host, Bill Potter. We're honored to have in the studio with us Indiana State Senator now. That is Mark Messmer, State Senator for District 48. Okay, I knew I was going to mess that up, Mark.
Okay.
You were formerly the state representative for District 63,
right?
But now you are in the State Senate. Is it much different?
Not a lot different. I mean, it's a whole new batch of staff and legislators and just a lot of new people to get to know. I mean, most of the senators I knew, but all of the support staff is starting from scratch. So I'm getting there.
But basically the procedures and all are the same.
Same. You still have about the same makeup of committees. You know, you've got to present your bill in the Senate committee, and it's got to go over and get passed in the House. Just the opposite path, but procedure-wise, it's just about the same. So it was a pretty smooth transition, and I was able to hit the ground running and have had a pretty good first week and a half. So,
well, we are really fortunate to have you come in. We really do appreciate it. You may have remembered for years we'd have Mark Messmer come in on Fridays and talk about what happens in the state legislation on the state representative side. Now we're going to have him come in on Fridays and talk about what's happening on the Senate side. And I guess we've about a week and a half maybe.
Yeah, we started last Tuesday, so we've had about 7 days of session time, and the beginning of the session, it's really, I mean, you've got to get all the bills filed, you've got to get all the bills assigned to committee. We've got Tuesday evening we had the State of the State from the governor. Wednesday afternoon we had the State of the Judiciary by the new Supreme Court Justice, and that. Those are all the ceremonial, procedural things that are they have to happen.
Right.
The bills get filed. Some of them are filed prior to when session started on last Tuesday. The rest of them you had until this Tuesday to get anything additional filed. There's about, I think, currently 560 Senate bills filed and assigned to committee, and about 470 House bills filed and assigned to committee. Probably be about another 25 or so Senate bills and another 100 or so House bills to get committee assignments yet, because those usually be between 550 and 600 bills per chamber. Now a lot of those are duplicate bills. Okay. A lot of those are, some of the bills are ones that probably won't get heard. We won't process that many, but at the end of session, there'll be about 150 to 200 pieces of legislation that get passed in final form out of those 1,200 or so that start.
And this is a long session?
Long session, budget year.
Okay.
And that's really the beginning of the session. The governor submits his budget to the Ways and Means Committee in the House, which happened last week. And then Tuesday night, he kind of outlines for the state, his budget priorities and where he'd like to see the money allocated and ratios. And there's about $700 million in projected new revenue for the next biennium over last. And he puts his list of priorities of where that gets done. It's a starting point. I mean, the governor's budget has never been, ever will be the final budget, because we'll take input from all of the educational institutions. We'll look at the funding formula for K through 12 education. We'll look at the road funding, all the different other public safety, and look at all of those agencies and figure out how to squash it all together on April 29th. It's usually the last bill we vote on, the last day of session, because we'll have a updated budget forecast in April. About April 15th, they come up they gave us a preliminary one in December. That's kind of where you start the process with the governor and with the House Ways and Means Committee. And then at the end of session in April, we get an updated forecast. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down from the preliminary. But then that's what we lock in and build the budget, and finalize things with. And so that really takes until the last hours of the last day to hammer that one out.
Now you obviously are going to be submitting some bills. Let's talk about some things that you're working on for this year's session.
Okay, well, a bill kind of carried over from last year, and first time in the history of the legislature, some of these farm wine bills are going to get a hearing in the Senate, and we're going to have the first one heard next Wednesday. Now myself and Phil Boots filed basically the same bill. Part of the process is you don't know what the other members are working on, but he filed the same basic piece of legislation, same farm winery bill I did. He's been on that Senate Public Policy Committee, for 4 years. I'm a new guy. So they're moving the one that he's the lead author, but I'll be his co-author.
Sure. Okay.
So, but that'll allow, there's two issues, one for direct shipping to consumers, one, selling to retail. This year, they're going to removing the requirement that you have a face-to-face contact with the winery before they can ship it to you. That prohibition will be lifted, which will allow, number one, out-of-state wineries, if they get a state farm wine permit, it'll allow them to ship in-state. California wineries will be able to ship here for the first time if they get the farm winery permit, or Indiana wineries can ship to consumers across the state, without you having to go to their place, copy your ID, all that, as a prerequisite. So it'll help our local wineries grow their businesses, quite nicely. We're going to raise the amount of that, the number of cases per year that they can, ship direct to consumers. We're going to raise the case limit, and there'll be third-party verification systems that verify your ID and all that. So that's all got a green light this year. So pretty excited about that.
That's probably one of those that'll go through easily.
Well, it should, but in the legislature, anything can happen.
Okay, all right.
There can always be things that crash them along the way. But we've passed those types of bills, either direct to retail or direct ship, in the House. Every year I've been there, and then they've gotten killed in the Senate. So, but we're getting a hearing Wednesday, so excited about that. I've got another bill that I filed for the last 3 years and couldn't get a hearing on the House side. Going to get a hearing Tuesday morning on making the equipment in a data warehouse. Companies that do cloud processing, off-site storage for large companies. These are $500,000 to $1 billion type operations, and the equipment in those currently they're have sales tax applied to them. Got a bill to make that type of entity, the equipment, sales tax exempt. It's just like production equipment in a factory, only the product they produce is information and data. Mm-hmm. And states that don't tax that equipment are where all those sites are going. So we've got some folks that have areas that are prime for locations for those. Northwest Indiana has a large internet hub, a major artery for that has great locations for that, but they've just been prohibited from being able to develop those. So that's going to get a hearing finally.
Okay.
I heard it in my Commerce Committee the last couple of years, but then we'd send it to Ways and Means, and they would
just kind of stop right there.
It, so, but Senator Hirschman's the Tax and Fiscal Chairman. He's the comparable person to Dr. Tim Brown on the House side of Ways and Means. So got one of the key guys behind it this time. So excited about that. Got some other bills that were locally generated issues that sound like I've talked to the chairman, and they're going to get the ability to move forward. One to help the local library board and on their be able to get all of the area within the city limits of Jasper within their library territory without having to change their board structure. That looks like it's got a green light to move. Logging operations currently get their equipment sales taxed. They're an agricultural entity. Harvesting trees is really no different theoretically than harvesting other crops. Okay. But the Department of Revenue has made a change in their determination in the last couple of years that they decided it's not an ag operation because it's not defined. Well, we're going to define it. So that looks like it's got a green light as well. Take a quick glance at my, 2 years ago we passed a bill. Travis Holman, Senator Holman was the author of it, that basically clarified, abortion clinics need to be operated, with similar rules and definitions as other medical clinics, and parts of that got struck down by a federal court. But he said in his ruling, here's your pieces of that legislation that are, maybe unequal treatment of these facilities. Here's what you need to do to correct it and clean it up and be able to apply the rules that you want. So I've got the cleanup bill from that. It was Senate Bill 371 from 2 years ago. The judge said, here's what's wrong, but here's how to fix it. So we're going to fix it. Okay. And I think that's going to get heard at the end of February. So things are up and running smooth, and looking forward to a very productive session.
Are you in a new office now?
I do. I actually have.
Do you have a bigger office because now you're a senator?
It's about the same.
Okay.
But I've got the spot that Senator Hume used to have, so it's still the Senate District 48 cubicle. Okay. Now I'm the one that's in it rather than Senator Hume. So,
what may be happening next week?
Well, next week, all the committees will be fully, I mean, we had a few committee hearings last week. We had a few committee hearings this week. Next week, every committee will be fully allotted their bills and will be in full swing. So from Tuesday morning, we'll be, we're off Monday for Martin Luther King Day, but Tuesday morning, there'll be committee hearings, session in the afternoon. Tuesday and Thursday, Wednesday will be a full slate of committee hearings. Thursday morning, I've got committees scheduled either presenting bills or hearing bills, just to, pretty well in all of those time slots. And the committee chairman that I haven't had a chance to talk to, I'll go talk to them about my bills and make sure they're okay with letting them have a hearing and move. And in the meantime, bills that are being heard in the committees I am, there's lobbyists or industry folks that want to come and talk to you about their legislation and let you know, so you're fully informed on what you're going to be dealing with. So it gets to be real busy next week, and we'll be up through when we'll have the midpoint about the end of February. That's when the first half of session will wrap up, and then bills switch chambers. So next week it'll be strap it on and
get going
and get real busy.
Well, now, obviously you have a different email now since you were a senator and not a state representative, but you still welcome people to contact you.
Oh, absolutely. On the state website at the IGA, .in.gov, you can track down Senator Messmer. I've got an email link on there. I don't have those new addresses memorized yet, but I think it's mark.messmer at indianasenate.gov or something, but I'll have that prepared for you next time.
Okay, but you could Google that just as
sure.
easy.
Oh yeah. You just type my name and it'll probably all pop up.
And if nothing else, you'll see Mark in a parade somewhere playing a trumpet.
Probably.
Thank you very much for coming in, Senator.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Yep, you're very welcome. We'll do that every week. Thank you.
Our guest has been Senator Mark Messmer, representing District 48. Thank you for watching WJTS in.form. We are local people watching local people.